Today's passage is Psalm 15 verses 1 through 5. Let's read together. Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain? The one whose walk is blameless, who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from their heart, whose tongue utters no slander, who does no wrong to a neighbor, and casts no slur on others, who despises a vile person but honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps an oath even when it hurts, and does not change their mind, who lends money to the poor, without interest, who does not accept a bribe against the innocent. Whoever does these things will never be shaken. Amen. I will share a message with you titled, The One Who Dwells in the Lord's Tent and Will Never Be Shaken. Today's text is a psalm of David, a prayer he composed. Moved by God's presence in the sanctuary, David wrote this psalm, and I imagine he prayed it earnestly before God. In the years that followed, the people of Israel would have set this psalm to music, singing it in praise as they ascended to the temple. This prayer of David concludes in verse 5 with a powerful promise: whoever does these things will never be shaken. An unshakable life is something everyone desires, but wanting such a life and achieving it are two different things. How then can we live a life that will never be shaken? Today's text gives us the answer. The one who will never be shaken is the person qualified to dwell in God's tent and live on his holy mountain. Let us read today's text, verse 1 together. Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain? Amen. A person who is never shaken is one who dwells in the Lord's tent and lives on his holy mountain. In other words, this is a person who longs for worship, a person who considers meeting with God a joy. The person described in verse 1 is not simply someone who stays in a certain place or heads toward a specific location. We all know people whose bodies are in one place while their hearts are somewhere else. Which is better? Someone whose body is here, but whose heart is absent, or someone whose body is absent, but whose heart is here. In truth, neither is ideal. Of course, the heart is paramount. Without it, our presence is meaningless. But what is truly in the heart will inevitably be expressed through our words and actions. That is why it is so important for our hearts and bodies to be united in this place, fully present before the Lord. The person David describes cherishes the Lord's tent and sets their heart on his holy mountain. This is a person who loves God, longs for deep fellowship with him, and expresses that love not just in feeling, but in word and deed. The core of today's text is this: a heart that loves God must be demonstrated in our daily lives through our words and actions, and that is why, from verse 2 onward, the psalm provides a list of specific actions we are to practice. I'd like to examine the word by reading it verse by verse. A helpful way to understand this psalm is to see that it describes both what we are called to and what we are called to do. First, let's read verse 2 together. The one whose walk is blameless, who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from their heart. Amen. Verse 2 describes what we must actively do. We are to walk blamelessly, do what is righteous, and speak the truth from the heart. The psalmist says that the one who actively lives this way is the one who truly longs for God's house and is qualified to dwell there. Let's read verse 3 together as well. Whose tongue utters no slander, who does no wrong to a neighbor, and casts no slur on others. Amen. Verse 3, on the other hand, describes what we must do, actions of restraint. The one who does not slander with their tongue, do evil to their neighbor, or cast a slur on others. This is the person who loves the sanctuary and longs to worship God. Let's also read verse 4 together. Who despises a vile person but honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps an oath even when it hurts, and does not change their mind. Amen. In verse 4 we see both what we must do and what we must refrain from doing. The psalmist speaks of a vile person, that is, one who continually does evil. We all know people like this, people who seem to live only to do evil. To despise a vile person and conversely to honor those who fear the Lord, this is an act of commitment. The psalmist declares that the person who does this is one who longs for the temple and has set their heart on the sanctuary. Then we see an act of restraint, who keeps an oath even when it hurts, and does not change their mind. This is about changing, about remaining steadfast. The one whose commitment to God does not waver, even when it costs them, is the one who truly longs for his presence. Let's also read the final verse, verse 5, together. Who lends money to the poor without interest, who does not accept a bribe against the innocent? Whoever does these things will never be shaken. Amen. Here again, we see things we must do. Do not charge interest to the poor, and do not accept a bribe. These actions are a powerful confession, a proclamation that says, I do not live by the world's standards, I live by the power and provision of God. This way of life belongs to those whose hearts are set on the sanctuary. My dear brothers and sisters, what we is important. Let us strive to do what God commands. At the same time, let us engrave on our hearts what we must do, resolving to turn away from it. Let us discern carefully between the two. Let us commit to a life where we refuse to do wrong, no matter the pressure, and persist in doing right, no matter the cost. For the one who lives this way will never be shaken. As we've examined today's text, doesn't it seem a bit strange? Verse 1 speaks of a heart that longs for the sanctuary, for the presence of God. Yet, from verse 2 onward, the psalm shifts its focus. It doesn't describe rituals inside the temple. It describes our conduct in our daily lives. It speaks not of Sunday worship, but of weekday living. The qualification to dwell in the Lord's tent is not determined by our actions within the church walls on a Sunday morning. The ones who truly dwell with God are those whose ordinary weekday lives are pleasing to Him. For those who live a holy and set-apart life, treating others with the same reverence they show the Lord, the doors of the sanctuary are open. The holy mountain becomes their home. Dear saints, I bless you in the name of the Lord. May you live this day with the same heart as David, who first prayed this psalm. Let us remember what we must do. There are things a person of faith must not say, places they must not go, and things they must not entertain. May today be a day where you consciously refrain from doing what you should not do. And let us also remember the active commands, the things God's people do. This morning let us reflect. Is there something God has called me to do that I have neglected? Let us resolve today. I will do it. I will no longer postpone what God has commanded. To the one who lives this way day by day, God grants the privilege of dwelling in His tabernacle and abiding on His holy mountain. And this privilege comes with a promise, a firm, unshakable life. This is the blessing of God. I bless you in the name of the Lord. May you fully enjoy this blessing today, the blessing of dwelling with our God in His sanctuary, of abiding on His holy mountain, and may you live a life that cannot be shaken, no matter what comes against you.